Hello again, and welcome to the North Star Kitchen. I'm Papa D. Glad you could join us today. Today on the menu, we have a rich and hearty Italian sauce, a Bolognese sauce. Although technically not a Bolognese sauce, more a cross between a ragu alla Napolitano and a Bolognese sauce. This sauce has a multitude of applications. It can be used anything from topping pasta and spaghetti to lasagna filling to topping steamed vegetables. It's really a great sauce to use in a whole lot of different meals. So let's go ahead and get started. So for today's ingredients, we are going to be using a pound of ground beef and a pound of Italian sausage. I prefer the mild or sweet Italian sausage, as I find that the hot Italian sausage really detracts from the flavor of the overall sauce. We will be using some crushed tomatoes, tomato paste. We'll be using some diced tomatoes and some tomato sauce. To that we're going to add in some sauteed onion, bell peppers, and mushrooms, sliced mushrooms. We'll saute those in some olive oil here in a minute. We'll be adding some sugar, about 1.5 tablespoons of that. Because of all the acidity in the tomatoes, the sugar will help to offset that. We'll be using a teaspoon of salt and pepper each, a teaspoon of each. We will be using 3 cloves of garlic minced. We'll be using 3 teaspoons of basil. We'll be using 2 teaspoons of marjoram, 2 teaspoons of thyme. We'll be using 1 teaspoon of paprika. And then to thicken things up at the end, we'll be using some Parmesan cheese and some mozzarella cheese, about 2 tablespoons of each. So let's get going. So we're going to start off by browning our ground beef and our sausage over medium-high heat. Just as a personal preference, I always pepper any sort of beef product that I am cooking. Just a personal preference. So while the ground beef and the sausage is on the stove browning, we're going to wash and prep our vegetables. Now, we will be dicing our onion and our green peppers, and we will be slicing our mushrooms. She's a little bit young to do my prep work for me, but give her a couple of years and she'll be right here with Papa D in the kitchen. Alright, so at this point our beef and sausage is brown and it is no longer pink, which is important. So we're going to take this off the heat and we're going to drain this and set it aside. Next, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil to the same pan that we used to brown the beef. And we're going to add in our onions, our peppers, and our garlic. And we want to saute this until the onions are translucent. So we're at a good point here where the onions are nice and translucent. So now we're going to start introducing other ingredients back in. So we're going to take the meat. We have a 28 ounce can of crushed tomato. We have an 6 ounce can of tomato paste. We have a 15 ounce can of tomato sauce. And a 15 ounce can of diced tomatoes. And we're going to turn the heat down to medium-low. Stir this all in. We're going to add in all of our spices and herbs. And we're going to bring in our mushrooms as well. Now at this point, we're going to let this simmer for at least an hour. The longer you let it simmer, the better. So we're going to let this simmer for at least an hour. We'll come back and taste test it. You should always taste test anything that you're making. But you can see it's a nice thick, hearty sauce. It has a lot of character to it. And of course, before I forget, definitely want to add in the wine. And you want to add in approximately a cup. Just stir that all together. We're going to cover that, and we'll be back in an hour. So we're back. It's 2 hours later, and this has been simmering nicely. It has really come together as a nice ragu. I like mine a little bit thicker than this, and I also like the flavor that adding a little bit of cheese adds. So I'm going to add in mozzarella cheese and grated Parmesan, about 2 tablespoons of both. And that's going to serve to thicken the sauce a little bit. And also gives it a little bit more depth of flavor. If you like your sauce even thicker than this, you can take a teaspoon of cornstarch and mix it into a tablespoon of water and add that in and stir it and let it cook for about 5 more minutes. Personally, I'm happy with this sauce here. So there you have Bolognese sauce. This recipe is definitely enough for more than just one meal. So as an additional suggestion, I would suggest perhaps an empty bell pepper, fill that with the Bolognese sauce, top with some cheese, and bake in the oven for a wonderful stuffed pepper. Anyway, I'm Papa D, and from all of us here at the North Star Kitchen, I want to say thank you for joining us today. Hope to see you soon.